So I wasn't going to do a review of Beau is Afraid. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Okay, now that we got the laziest and most overdone joke on YouTube out of the way, let's actually get to the point. Beau is afraid, man. Beau, mate, buddy. I am afraid. I'm afraid that you are in a pretty sucky movie. Now, that is completely oversimplifying things though, and I think does do a disservice to Beau is Afraid if I just say it sucks, if I just say it's bad, because that is simply not objectively true. Because I actually think that Beau is Afraid features some of Ari Aster's very best material in this thing, and I absolutely love a lot of what it's going for. I really do. But then there's also those little things, and those very big things as well. There's a lot in here where I actually think it showcases some of Ari Aster's very worst stuff that he's ever done as well. And I think that that is what really brings it down for me and really disappoints me, because it had so much going for it, and it makes it almost worse when the bad rears its ugly head and shows that this film isn't everything that I wished that it was. It becomes so frustrating to me. If anything describes what this film is for me, it's frustrating. But look, I think there's a lot to appreciate here, and if anything, for a lack of a better term, in comparison to all other films in existence, Beau is Afraid is an art piece. It's a piece of art, and it's beautiful in its own ways, and I can kind of respect that this is Ari Aster's magnum opus, at least in his eyes. But whether or not that actually appeals to the masses, whether or not that works for most people, is obviously a completely different story. That's nothing new. We've seen films like these before where they're weird, they don't quite work for general audiences and all that stuff. It's an artsy-fartsy piece, you know, there's no avoiding that. We know that going in. For some people, I've read that it does work and that they fucking love this thing. For most people though, I'm hearing pretty mixed things, and I'm hearing mostly negative things, if I'm being honest. And I don't just want to pile on. I don't. I was hugely disappointed by this movie, but I don't just want to pile on and only say that it was bad. It did everything that it set out to do, so I'm not going to say that it failed. And I can definitely appreciate in its own right that it is the film that Ari Aster wanted to make, and I still respect him as a filmmaker. I think he's one of the best out there. I can't wait to see what he does next. I hope I like it more than Beau is Afraid. Basically, this whole movie is divided up into like 4 quarters, sort of like 4 different sections, okay? But the whole movie is pretty much about Beau trying to reunite with his mum, who's living in a state, I think, or something like that. I don't know. He's going to visit his mum, basically. And the movie is about him going on this big, grand adventure at first, which turns out to just be small scale, but big in Beau's mind. And then it turns into this metaphorical mess that isn't really a story anymore, like I said. And I think part of the problem is that the film, or maybe me, I'm willing to admit that maybe I'm the problem here, but the film or me doesn't understand what is text and what is subtext. And it starts to just become this, like I've said, it just starts to become nonsensical, where it's like, well, is this real? Does this have anything to do with the rest of it? It just kind of unfolds on itself as just this metaphorical nonsense, and you don't really know what is really happening. And it just feels like it's really unfocused to me. It feels like it keeps getting distracted. It's like, what if we did this? What if we did this? And it like doesn't not do any of them. It explores every single facet that it possibly could. Where like Ari Aster basically obviously had no men. He was surrounded by yes men. So basically the first half of the film is highlighting Beau's state of mind as this guy who is very concerned about just about every aspect of the entire world. We soon, very early on, learn that he is an unreliable narrator, and the movie really uses this to depict this idea of social anxiety. Basically, the whole film, but especially the first quarter or so, is all about Beau just being worried. Like, what if this happens? What if this happens? And literally every single one of the possibilities does happen. Basically, it's just about this guy who is completely shit out of luck in just about every way. Sometimes it's hilarious, sometimes it's intense, sometimes it's scary. This is a very dark world where everybody just wants to shit on Beau in whatever way they can. Some people want to stab him, some people just want to yell at him, some people want to break into his apartment, take all of his things and break all of his things, etc. I thought the film was really getting its idea across where everybody is just mean to him, but it's not necessarily what is actually happening in reality. We're not seeing the world that Beau is in, we're seeing Beau's world, if that makes any sense. And I do very much enjoy seeing this broken character as well, who's been broken by his past traumas, who's been broken by this relationship that he has with his jealous mother, who's just broken in many different ways. We can see he's not the most well-educated, well-spoken man. We can see that he's not the most confident man. He's worried about every occurrence that could ever happen. And, you know, it makes it so that he thinks everything is about him, but not in an egotistical way, just in a very concerned way. And as somebody with pretty severe social anxiety, I would say, self-diagnosing, I admit, I could relate to quite a bit of this, even though I was also pulled up to the very extreme as well. Everything is to the extreme in Beau is Afraid. And that is something that I can praise for it as well. I can also say that it's pretty visually stunning. It's pretty interesting. And there's definitely a very heavy sense of Ari Aster's personality here. Like I mentioned before, this is a funny film. This is a horrific film at times. There's a lot going for this film. It just also is a film that doesn't really make any sense by the end of it. It's a film that is perfectly divided, by the way, between the first and second half. Evenly, perfectly divided between the good and bad, because I love that first half. I think it's incredible. But that second half, everything that's been built up to that peak right in the middle just starts to crumble down as it's destroyed by that nonsensical second half, which isn't an opinion I've heard a lot of people saying. You know, I've heard a lot of people saying that this is just abstract bullshit, they don't like it, they can't decipher it, it sucks and all that sort of stuff. Any combination of those sorts of criticisms I've heard. I haven't necessarily heard a lot of other people saying that the first half is incredible while the second half isn't, but that's exactly what I think. Maybe that's a unique opinion, maybe it's a weird opinion. I don't know, because I do feel like what appeals to me from the first half does appear in that second half quite a bit as well. It just feels a little bit more nonsensical, like I said. And I actually think that I can maybe explain what the difference is. So, enter another movie from 2017 called Mother, Darren Aronofsky's Mother. This is a film that is also full of metaphor. It's also a film that doesn't exactly have a strong narrative through line. It's a film where a lot of different things happen and you're not quite sure how you even got there by the end. Things don't make that much sense and it's reminiscent of a nightmare. And it's a film that I absolutely love. Mother was one of the most intense cinema experiences I've ever had in my life, and it's a film that I will never ever forget, and I think that it is incredible. The difference between Beau is Afraid and Mother, in my opinion, is that Mother is set out just over one night. It's all set in just the one house, and it's all set in one night. And I think that Beau is Afraid really loses itself when it goes out onto being this grand adventure. And we start to lose a sense of time. We start to lose the sense of setting. We start to lose what centers the film, I think. And I just think that that is really what brought this film down. It's like halfway through the film when you basically go on this 45 minute just side quest that's all like based in this weird and fictional play that's taking place within the film, and everything starts being like animated, and it's all talking about a life that we know Beau is not actually having or experiencing, and it's not real, where I'm just like, why are we doing this? What does this have to do with the rest of the film? And it was there where I just started feeling like I don't get it. And I'm willing to admit that I don't fully understand this film. I don't think anybody really does. I don't think you can. I think much like any piece of art, it's something that is more there to decipher. It's something more to be interpreted. You know, beauty is in the eye of the beholder and all that kind of shit. I get it. But I also don't. I don't know. I also don't get a lot of Beau is Afraid. I'm willing to admit that. Maybe that makes me look stupid. You know, I'm not exactly sure. But I just thought retroactively during that second half, it really just fucked over what that first half built up, because I thought it was absolutely incredible. And it was funny because during that first half, my wife leaned over to me also loving it, and she said, wow, this is my favorite Ari Aster film so far. But there's still like 2 hours left, plenty of time to fuck it up. And maybe she jinxed it or something. Retroactively, she changed all of Ari Aster's choices just by saying that somehow, and it turned it into a bad movie or something. Obviously, I'm not actually blaming her, but it was funny. It was almost like as soon as she said that, it all started to come down. I don't know. It actually reminds me, though, a criticism that I do have for all of Ari Aster's work is that I don't actually think he knows how to end a film. I think Midsommar has his strongest ending. I do think that that's kind of, it's an ending that makes sense, although I don't love everything that happens in it. Hereditary, I absolutely hate the ending, if I'm being honest. I think that that also turns into just a bunch of nonsense with demons and all this bullshit, naked people all over the house and whatever. But with Beau is Afraid, it's very interesting because it does follow along with that, but much earlier, because like I said, it's the entire second half which I was not a huge fan of. Look, if I have to give it like some more praise and stuff, if I have to talk about like more objective things, Joaquin Phoenix, is he good in it? Yeah, I suppose. I don't know. He's a good actor. I don't fucking know. I don't like commenting on people's acting, so why did I bring it up? Because I thought I should say another positive, I guess, and I thought I should talk about the thing that everybody talks about when it comes to reviewing this film. Like, I feel like I review movies differently. The things that jump out at me are different. Do I talk about Joaquin Phoenix's performance? I guess. Do I talk about Ari Aster's cinematography? Sure, why not? It's good, I guess. I can't say a bad thing about it. Basically, what I think was incredible about this film was the atmosphere. I thought the intensity of being in Beau's mind and seeing everything from an unreliable point of view is a very interesting way to do it. No, it's not the first film to ever do that, but it is an interesting way to do it. And I did think it was interesting when it was still this sort of horror movie where everybody was out to get Beau, and I could kind of really get behind that first hour and a half or so of storytelling before it devolves into metaphor and nothing more. That rhymes. What I think really makes this film is Ari Aster's personality. It's really his sense of humor in this very dark world that does make this film what it is. And I do think that it is a film that definitely does have a lot of personality and is definitely something that is just very different. You know, if I can praise it for anything, I can definitely say it is very different. I'm not saying that it's completely unlike any other movie I've ever seen in my life, which I've been hearing a lot of people saying. Like, I think that's bullshit. I think that's an exaggeration because Beau is Afraid, yeah, it's weird, okay? Yeah, it's not like your typical blockbuster. You know, it's definitely a lot more creative than, you know, every Marvel movie or every, you know, any of those sorts of things, okay? I get it. Beau is Afraid is definitely different when it comes to those sorts of comparisons, but that's really only comparing Beau is Afraid to the shallowest of the shallow. What if you're comparing Beau is Afraid to the Suspiria remake from a few years ago, or Mother, like I just said before? I don't think that Beau is Afraid completely stands out among the houses that Jack built of the world, all those sorts of films. I just don't think that it is completely as unique as everybody's making out to be, but it is unique. I'm not taking away from that, if that makes any sense. I do think there's a little bit of a distinction there, but yeah. Beau is Afraid is definitely the film that Ari Aster wanted to make. I wasn't fully impressed by every aspect of it, but I was impressed by quite a lot. It has a lot going for it, but it also has a lot. I'm just like, yeah, I don't know, man. I'm out. I don't care. I don't care about this shit anymore. I don't know. It just depends how you view these sorts of movies. I think looking at it, you're already going to know if it's going to work for you or not, maybe. Or maybe not, because I thought it was going to work for me and it didn't. Maybe I'm just talking complete bullshit. I don't know. Anyway, I guess that's about all I have to say. Sorry if that was a bit rambly at the end there, or for the entire thing. Probably was. But yeah, I think that's about all that I have to say. I kind of loved it, kind of hated it. I don't really know how I feel about Beau is Afraid. It's a film. I can say that. Anyway, that is all. Thank you for watching. Before you go, please do that things, which is like, comment, subscribe, all that shit. And I'm outie. Goodbye.